Hello! In this video, I'm going to introduce you to something called Bootstrap. If you haven't heard before, Bootstrap is one of the most popular projects ever for developers. And what it is just a CSS file and JavaScript file. But why would that be one of the most popular projects? Well, one thing you might have noticed is that writing CSS from scratch is a bit of a pain. Wouldn't it be nice if you can use something that has already been created by somebody so that not every single developer has to keep reinventing the wheel and keep writing everything from scratch? And that is the idea behind Bootstrap. Bootstrap was created to solve this problem so that we can create websites really, really fast by using somebody else's CSS and building on top of it. There's also another project called Foundation that does the same thing, and they have their own styles. But again, Bootstrap is the more popular of the two, so we'll focus on that. If we click on Get Started here, it'll have a quick setup instruction, and in the next video, we'll actually build something with Bootstrap. But I wanted to show you, if you go down to Components, what the big sell of Bootstrap is. And that is, it has all of these things pre-built for you. So if I wanted to, let's say, have a navigation bar, well, that's already built for me with drop downs and links. And all I have to do is copy and paste this code. And you'll see over here that they already have classes attached to them. And these classes will be associated with the CSS file that I will download for Bootstrap. So anytime I use something like navbar, it will use the default Bootstrap styles. And there's many things that you can do. As you can see, all I need to do is copy and paste this code and I have myself a card. You can imagine how fast making websites is with this. Now, the one thing I do want to point out is you might be asking, why do I need to also download JavaScript? We haven't really learned that topic yet in this course. And there are some things in Bootstrap, such as drop-down menus. You can see how they're adding behavior, some actions to our website. If I go to, let's say, modals, for example, and I click on Launch Demo Modal, well, this uses JavaScript because there's some action within our website. We won't worry too much about that, and that's something we'll get into when we get to the JavaScript section. But you can see here that with Bootstrap, by just downloading a CSS file and a JavaScript file, we have all these tools at our disposal. Now, you might be asking yourself one other thing, and that is, well, if everybody uses these, won't we all have the same looking websites? And no. The beauty of Bootstrap is that these are just building blocks. You have all these classes that you can use, but then you can add your own custom CSS styles on top of these to make it different. So if I go to buttons, for example, well, by using these classes, I have all these beautiful buttons. But if I wanted to change the behavior of button primary, which is this one, I could create my own CSS file and just put it right after the Bootstrap file and change the primary color to, let's say, orange. And just to show you, if you go to the Expo tab here, Bootstrap actually has a whole bunch of websites that have been built with Bootstrap. And you can see that they all look very, very different. So in the next video, we're going to build ourselves a Bootstrap website. I'll see you in that one. Bye-bye. Let's start using Bootstrap. And there are two ways we can use this toolkit. One is to download. And you can just click on the first link. It says compiled CSS and JavaScript. Well, let's just see what gets downloaded. So if I open this, you'll see here that I have a CSS file and JavaScript file. You see there's a bunch of them. You don't have to worry too much about it. It's just different CSS files that are used together based on if you're using the Bootstrap Grid or the Bootstrap CSS. And you'll see some of them have the bootstrap.min.css, and that means that they are minified. So if I open this, you'll see that everything is on one line and minified. Right now, all we would need to do is just add this to our project, but I want to show you a better way of doing it, especially when we're getting started. And that is, we can use something called a CDN. So what is a CDN? A CDN is a content delivery network. Bootstrap has this link and they're hosting the Bootstrap CSS files for us. So we don't even need to include it in our project. All we need to do is add this line into our HTML, and you'll see here that the link tag, which refers to a style sheet, has an href that links us to the Bootstrap minified CSS. And that's what a content delivery network is. We don't need to include our files into our project. We just link to someplace else that is actually hosting this file. So let's copy that. Let's open up Sublime. And I'm going to create a new file here, and we'll save it to the desktop. I'm going to call it index.html. I save, and let's open that up in the browser as well. Okay, empty because, well, we don't have anything. Here, let's start with our HTML page, and we'll title it Bootstrap. And again, we have that link copied, which is the CDN that says, hey, I want the CSS file from Bootstrap. If you scroll down to the bottom, it also has the JavaScript file. And like I said before, we need these files if we're using features of Bootstrap, such as dropdowns or modals that actually add some actions to our websites. So let's just copy this. And where we want to put JavaScript, and again, when we get to that section in this course, we'll talk more about it. We want to put it at the bottom of our body tag. And that is because you want these JavaScript files to load after all the content of your websites have loaded. This way, we have our website loaded and then these scripts get downloaded. If we put these at the top, you'll have to wait for all of them to load before a user can see your website. And obviously, that's not what we want to do. Okay, and this is all we need to have Bootstrap working for us. So let's play with a few things. Let's say we wanted to add a navbar. I would go into the components and select navbar. And you can read about how it works, but I really like this navigation bar. So I'm just going to copy the code and add it to my body. And I know it can get overwhelming when you're copying a whole bunch of code and you don't know exactly what it's doing. But if you actually read this line by line, you know everything. It's just a few tags with their own specific Bootstrap classes. So let's save here and refresh. And look at that. We have a navigation bar. How easy is that? And one thing that Bootstrap is really famous for, and why people love it so much, is that it's fully responsive. So you see the menu bar here. If I make it bigger, look at that. It automatically changes according to what we need. Okay, what else can we add over here? Let's add a Jumbotron. Hello world. Okay, so I can copy this. And again, let's add that right below the nav bar. So again, in Sublime Text, I can minimize this by clicking the side over here. And below the nav bar, we'll add this Jumbotron. Okay, so if I save and refresh, look at that. We have hello world. Let's add one last thing. We'll do a modal. And with the modal, I really like this one, launch demo modal. So I'm going to copy this. And again, I'm going to minimize the Jumbotron just so we can see what we've added. Copy and paste this. Always have to adjust my indentation. Perfect. And I save this and refresh. We have the launch demo modal. And if I click this, look at that. We have our own modal. Now, this, just to prove that this is JavaScript, if I remove these scripts, and I'm just going to comment them out, and I click this, nothing happens. And that's what JavaScript is doing. We'll get into it, like I said, later, but there are some features that might not work with Bootstrap if you don't include these scripts. But if you're only using it for styles, then you might not even need these. So if I remove this, if you saw, we still have all of these, but the nav bar isn't working anymore. So again, you can play around and see what you need. You don't need to know exactly what these scripts do yet. So just leave them there for now. Now, how can we change the style so that, we can add our own custom look to our website? Well, if we wanted to change something like the launch demo modal button, well, in that case, I can see over here that this is the button, and I can look at the classes that Bootstrap gives us. If I go into buttons, well, here I can see that all these classes have, all these colors have different names. So if I want it to be red, I can use button danger. So again, I can remove primary. Actually, I can just type this out. Instead of primary, I can do danger, save, and refresh. And now the button's red. But again, what if you want your own custom look to the button? Well, that's easy to do. We can now say that from now on, I want button danger to be orange. The way we do that is we create a style sheet at the top. And now we can add our own style sheet, and you can see it's below the Bootstrap one, which means that according to cascading style sheets, our styles will override anything that might match the Bootstrap ones. So let's create a style file here. And I actually have one created already on our desktop. You can see it over here in the same directory as the index.html. And here we can say that the button danger that we just added has a background color of orange. If I save this and refresh, look at that. Our button is now orange. And the hover effect is still red, and that's default Bootstrap. So we can do button danger hover is going to be black. Save and refresh. Look at that. We have our own custom button. You can see Bootstrap is very powerful. We're able to create websites really, really fast this way. And in the next section, we're going to talk about the best feature of Bootstrap that I have yet to tell you about. I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye. And welcome back. We left off with our really quick website that we built using Bootstrap. But I want to show you one thing that I've kept from you, and that is the layout feature in Bootstrap. And this was the primary reason that Bootstrap was so popular. Because layout was so difficult and we didn't have Flexbox back in the day, Bootstrap allowed us to create very responsive websites using these ideas of columns. To show you what I mean, we're going to create our own column system. We're going to go back to our website, and I'm going to delete everything that we created so far. I'm going to save and refresh. Everything's empty. So in Bootstrap, you can do something like this. You always want to wrap everything in a container. And again, if you go to the documentation, it'll show you what to do. And we'll just grab the top ones. So let's just copy these, fix the indentation a bit. There you go. And if I refresh, well, we need to have a bit of a background so we can see them. So I'm going to say column. We'll do background color gray, and the border will be 2 pixels solid black. Save and go back and refresh. We have our borders. Now here's something interesting that you can do. You can do column small 6 and then column small 3. Don't worry, I'll explain what that means. I'm going to refresh, and look at that. The size of this just got smaller. And that is because Bootstrap has the idea of a grid system, and this grid system has 12 lines. So 6 plus 3 is 9, So it's saying that I want this column to have 6 spaces out of that 12, and this column to have 3 spaces out of that 12. So if we add another column, and 6 plus 3 plus 3 is 12, I'm going to say extra here. I refresh, you'll see that it fills in this gap. What if I put in 4 here? So that is 13, which is over 12. Well, if I refresh, this goes down to the next level. So you see how easy it is to control things in Bootstrap. I could also do something like column extra small. We'll do 12, and then column extra small 6, column extra small 6. And actually we'll do medium here. Save. Let's refresh and see what happens. Whoa. What this is saying that if the size of the window is medium, then I want the whole 12 grid system to the first div, and then 6 of the 12 to the second, and then the extra one, 6. So you can see here that that's medium. But because we have these small properties in here, if I make it smaller, you can see that it resorts down to the 6, 3, 4 grid. Let's change this back to 3 so it looks better, and show you that there's a few other sizes that we can add. You can see over here that we have grid options, and we have small, medium, large, and extra large. So let's do large and see what happens. So for large, I want to have everything on their own. So we can do this. And save. Let's refresh and see if you can guess what's about to happen. I'm going to go from medium to large. Do you see that? 12, 12, 12. So I want each div to occupy 12 spaces, 12 grid systems, which is the full thing. If I go to medium, I now occupy with the first one, 12. The second one's 6 and 6. So they should be one after another. And if I go down to even smaller, the small will have 6, 3, and 3. So this is how you can create really responsive websites. And that was the biggest selling feature of Bootstrap. It was solving this really, really hard problem of making sure that our website looked good no matter what the screen size. So I want you to play around with the grid options here. This is the hardest concept to grasp in Bootstrap. Once you've learned this, it's very, very easy to create websites extremely fast. I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye. Great job getting this far in the course. You should be proud of yourself. Now, using everything that we've learned so far, which is a lot, we're going to build our first startup landing page. I want you to build something like this. Something responsive, with a background image, some text, and a nice little button. And in the next lesson, you can either grab these files of this website and just use this as a demo or your own. And I'll show you how to do this. That's right. We're going to create a sign-up form so that next time you have your big startup idea, you can whip out a website really, really quick and start gathering some emails. I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye. Welcome back. Did you manage to build your startup landing page? If that's the case, then you can follow along with your own code. Otherwise, you can use my example and build on top of it. You can see over here what I've done, and I'll just go over exactly what is happening with my startup page. As you can see, it's nothing too crazy, but it looks pretty sleek. I have a link to Google Fonts. I have a link to Bootstrap, and I'm using a CDN so that I don't have to include my own files. And I also have a link to my own style sheet, and I'm using a little bit of Bootstrap here to make these containers. I have my header, And then I have a button with some Bootstrap classes. And if you look into the style sheet, I've actually overridden a few of the Bootstrap classes so that I get my own custom color and some different fonts. All right, so how can we make this so when we click on this button, we'll get an email sign up form so that people can sign up for our email list? And we're actually going to do this. I'm going to show you a nice, easy, free way of doing it. And that is, yes, I am filming this at 7:53 in the morning. I'm a morning person. Let's look at MailChimp. So MailChimp is a great service that I use quite often. And what it does is it helps you with email marketing. So I'm going to show you the exact steps you can take for you to create a sign-up form. And with MailChimp, it's actually free until you get 2,000 subscribers, which is, you know what, more than enough to validate that your business idea is right. So let's create an account. I've actually created a new email for us to test this out on. Andre the dev will say dev guy. For the password, well, I'll just make something up. Click get started. And if we check our email, we'll have an activation link. No, I am not a robot. I'm a real person. Andre Dev. Tests. And our website, we'll just make something up. coolwebsite.com. So the address, I'm just going to go through this quickly and skip to the last section. And we should get to this screen now. We don't want to subscribe to anything, so we'll just click let's go. Okay, I won't be going through any of this stuff. You can look at it on your own. I just want to show you how we can get a nice sign up form from the service. And we can actually click on lists here, create list. And we have to fill in a few forms. We can just do test here. Email address here will be my throwaway account. Test name, we'll just do test. Write a short intro. You signed up to this because you wanted to be a dev. And we'll just save that. If I now go into sign up forms, embedded forms, and we'll go to the super slim option and just copy and paste this block of text that they provide for us. And this is actually HTML. So if we go back to our web page, I can now, right above my button, paste this piece of code in. And you see that they've commented it out for us so that we know that this isn't our code, it is the MailChimp sign-up form. So if we refresh this, if I save and refresh, well, we kind of get this ugly thing over here. We don't really want anything but the subscribe, because if I click subscribe, it'll actually open us to this pop-up. So let's get rid of some of this stuff. We see over here that the email address, if I look over here, I see the input that is email. We don't need that, so we'll remove it. Okay. We also see here that we don't really want this background to be white like this. And you can see over here that they've made the background FF, so we can remove that. And refresh. Perfect. We also don't want this text. So I'm going to remove this label. You can see here that it's written subscribe to our mailing list. Perfect, and refresh. Okay, now we want this button to actually be this button. So how can we do that? We can find this button by again looking at the input. Type submit, value subscribe. That looks like the button. Let's make this, instead of the input, to be the button. The way we do that is we just give it the class that we have for the button. So let's try that. If I go over here and just add the class and I remove my button, let's save and refresh. Look at that. We have our button, but it changed our text. So make sure you remember to change back your text to find out more. Save and refresh. Look at that. And now if we click on this, I can enter a fake email address. I'll say, is it working? Hi, and subscribe to the list. And I got to confirm I'm not a human, or I am a human. Click subscribe to list, and you'll get a confirmation here. And this is the cool part. Now, if I go back to MailChimp, let's make this larger, and I go to lists, I click on test. Look at that. I have collected an email address. And here you can manage your users and find out who's interested in your startup, and it's working. How awesome is that? So there you have it. You've created your first startup landing page. See if you can implement this on your own website. As you can see, it's fairly easy and it has nice comments for you. So there you have it. We have this piece of MailChimp code that does all this magic for you. And you don't really need to know exactly how it works. You can look into it and read up on it. But it's just a simple form that gets triggered when you click on a button so that you can have signups. All right, go off and launch your next startup idea. I'll see you in the next. We've built our beautiful website. We've created a sign-up form. And it's fully responsive, but it's just on our computers. Let's actually put this online, on the internet, so anybody can access it. And I'm going to show you one way to do it for free. It'll take a bit of setup, but this way you'll have a website that is out there and you can showcase it to your friends. So to get started, I'm going to suggest that you go to github.com and you're going to create an account. And when we get to the GitHub and Git section, we're going to talk more about this, but GitHub is a platform for developers to showcase their work, but also put all their code and make sure that it's saved in a location. You can think of it as a resume for developers. So any developer that I know has a GitHub account, so create your own as well. It's completely free and it'll allow us to put our website online for free. So sign up now, and then I'm going to go back to my GitHub where I'm already signed in. And right here, once you're signed in, you'll get to this page and it'll say start a project. So I want you to click on start a project. And here, this is really important. You need to put the name that you have, your username of GitHub first, and then put period github.io. So you have to name your repository, so you can think of this as project name. And then you can click on create repository. You'll get this screen and it'll look very, very confusing. Don't worry, we don't need to worry about it. We're going to have to use the setup in desktop button. In order to do that, we need to download GitHub desktop client. So you can easily do that by downloading GitHub desktop. There's for Mac, for Windows, whichever one you need. You can download. Once that's downloaded, let's open it up. And you can see here we have GitHub desktop. I'm going to double click to open it. You'll get this pop-up, but you can just open. And once you have this, you can click on clone repository. And you will have to sign in to GitHub. So this needs to know what your account is on github.com. So I'm just going to click sign in. And again, this is, you can sign in with your own credentials here. And there you go. We should be all signed in. The next step is we're going to click on something called clone a repository. So we're going to click on that and we're going to search for the repository we just created. So if you remember your username.github.io, and because it's signed in to your account, it knows where to find it. So from here, I'm going to click clone. And it did a whole bunch of magic behind the scenes. Don't worry about it for now. Now, you want to open this repository in Finder. And it's going to open up your folder with your name on it. And in there, I just want you to copy and paste the 3 files that you have, your index, your style sheet, and your header. If you have any other files for your website, just keep them all in there. Just a reminder to take it out of the folder. There you have it. I don't want to delete that, so I'm going to copy that back. Okay. And once you have that there, close it. And now you'll see that you have these 3 files that you've just added. All we need to do now is just write a summary of this. So uploading website, and then commit to master. You'll need to add a summary in here, otherwise it won't let you click. You click on that, and again, something happens, some magic, but if you click on the history tab, you'll see that your files are still there. And the final thing you're going to do is click this publish branch button. If you click on this, it's doing a whole bunch of work behind the scenes, and it looks like it's done. Now here's the cool part. Let's go back to our website. And remember this screen? Well, now, if I refresh, I have my files in there. So now this location is referencing these files. And guess what? Your website's actually online. Don't believe me? Well, let's check out. All we need to do is go to this link, type it into the bar, press enter, and there you go. We have our website online. So now our beautiful website, our startup page, works, and people can sign up for our mailing list and check out our startup. Isn't that cool? We're going to be learning more about GitHub and Git later on in the course, and there's a special section just for it because it's a very important tool. But I wanted you to put your website online so you can show it off to your friends and family and let them know that you're going to be a pretty good developer. Welcome back to another Developer Fundamentals video. And you know who we haven't seen in a while? My friend Jean-Claude Van Damme. How are you doing these days, Jean? All right. So what is this developer fundamental that we're going to teach? Well, I have over here animate.css, and this is another CSS file that we can download to animate things. So all I need to do is click download animate.css, and I have the CSS file downloaded for me. So let's open that up. You'll see over here that, yep, this is a massive CSS file that I just downloaded. And this is how Bootstrap, that we've seen in previous videos, works. They're essentially providing a CSS file for us with all these properties already preset, and we also have all the classes that we need to use them. So let's say I wanted to use this, and I'm just going to copy this for now. And I have an empty website, and I'm just going to copy and paste this CSS for us. Just think about how powerful that is. We're able to not start from scratch, but use what other people have created to make our websites faster. To show you this, let's open up this file. So into our browser. Okay, it's completely empty. And let's just have a header 1 that says animate me. I'm going to save and refresh. And looking at animate.css, I can add let's add bounce to our header. All we need to do is click on something like view on GitHub, and it will explain for us what we can add. And I'll just save you the trouble of reading, but all we need to do is this. Copy and add the class, animated, and then whatever animation we want. In this library, that's how it works. You just need to stay a class and type animated first, and then any of the actions that were provided on the website. So in our case, it was infinite bounce. Save and refresh. And well, we haven't linked our style sheet here, so let's do that. And we should be really good at this by now because we've done it plenty of times. Save and refresh. Look at that. Our header is now animated. Let's see what else we can do with this. We can do Jello. Actually, let's do something more exciting, maybe flip. Oh, I like that one. Okay, so we want to do flip. We can type in flip and refresh here. You see that? Let's do that infinite just so we can see it. Woo, there you go. I'm going to stop that because that's going to get us dizzy. Refresh. There you go. Now, the fundamental here that I want to show you is that when we're building websites, it is very rare that we build something from scratch. Most of the time, you want to build on top of something that has already been created. Otherwise, the whole environment of being a developer would be very, very tedious. How much of a waste is it if somebody has already created a solution that you need? So as a developer, you want to be efficient with your time and your limited resources. So you want to find things like Bootstrap or even animate.css if they solve your certain problems. And that is true for CSS as well as JavaScript when we get into it. You want to find solutions that already exist, and only if they don't exist already, then you can implement your own. Finally, I wanted to show you one other tool, and that is Creative Tim. So if you click on Creative Tim, they create Bootstrap themes. They're using the Bootstrap toolkit to build their own styles and their own little customized actions to make it even better. So if I go to categories over here and we'll do UI kits, you'll see over here that they have all these things that we can use. So if we click on PaperKit 2 Pro, let's find a free one actually. If I click on price low to high, there you go. We have the Get Shit Done, and we also have PaperKit 2. So if I click on this, and I'm going to make this full screen, this allows us to build something like this very, very easily with their own custom design. And all we need to do is do a free download. And you'll see that when we download this, we have all the files that we need. And let's open it up. Look at that. We have this website that, just like Bootstrap, we can use these buttons and these different styles and navigation, progress bars, and forms, and everything that you need. And because we know now how HTML files and CSS files work, we can actually start customizing this. And we can open up an index file and start editing it. Or if we go into assets and CSS, we can start adding our own CSS values to it. And you'll see a lot of developers that do this exactly. They're freelancers and people need just websites built, and they're able to build websites really, really fast by using something like Creative Tim. Because as you can see, they've already built really nice looking components for you. There's paid ones that you can get, and that is one avenue that you can go. But I do argue that these type of websites can only take you so far. And in order to build real applications, real complex applications, and even garner higher salaries and make your skills really valuable, we need to learn JavaScript, and we need to become better than just using templates and CSS. And that's what we're going to get into the next section. That is JavaScript. That is when the real power comes. I'll see you in that one. Bye-bye.